What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Brown Gent. We've got a whopper of a video today going a little deeper into the layer zero strategy that I talked about just a couple days ago. It's really taken off in our private membership, and because of that, I've seen a lot of the following posts you see on the thumbnail. A ton of people who went from being last place to being middle of the pack. Some have actually made it into the top 10% in just 2 to 3 short days. And you can do the same thing, but I want to dive a little deeper and show you exactly all the things you should be thinking about. So if my first video was provocative and made you think, this one is going to blow your mind. So stay tuned, but remember, nothing I say here is financial advice. You got to do your own research and all of that. Now, if you want the white glove service, you can get that through the Web3 Secret Society. Check that out in the membership below. I do want to sort of recognize these two things that popped up during my last live stream. And because I was in such a rush, I didn't look at the chat till after. So really want to thank John Gable for donating $2 to the stream. Very much appreciated. You know, guys, you don't have to donate, but I do appreciate it. Just the likes, the shares are fantastic. But obviously, you know, I'm not going to say no to it. I'm going to sort of take that money and put it into some crypto. So thank you. Also want to welcome another member to the Web3 Secret Society. In fact, since the last video, so welcome FTF, which is not their name on the Discord, but we've actually filled up. I think we're at 43 members now, not including the 2 bots and myself. So anyone who joins after the fact, I just want to reemphasize, there's no more private rooms. So you can still join our group if you'd like to, and we have a ton of channels. But I think one of the really cool aspects of the group is most people have a private channel, or at least the OGs do, where they can literally put anything that they're curious about, any issues they're having, anything they want to discuss in private, and bang, it gets handled. So, you know, there will be a sort of marketplace. We're looking to see what we can do to support those. And if you join after the fact, you're on a wait list. But the main thing we want to talk about today is really around your layer zero strategy. So what I've done is I've put together a bunch of slides to really help focus you. And the reason I've done this is, I've had a bunch of questions within the Discord asking, okay, I want to do it. I wasn't going to farm layer zero. I watched your video. I'm motivated. What do I do? There were tons of questions, and I figured, hey, why not just put together a video going through step by step, answering it all. I'm sure it won't answer every single question because it's crypto. And crypto is complicated. But that all being said, you want to follow sort of the most simplest approach. So if you were going somewhere, before you go somewhere, you need to know where you are right now. What's your starting point? You got to calibrate that first. So you need to understand what that looks like. There's a tracker or many trackers I've shown. By the way, links to everything I'm going to talk about, they'll be in the description below. So don't worry about having a squint and hope that you can see the link titles. They'll all be available for you. So the first thing is to find your starting point. And the second is basically to use a tracker to get as much information as possible. Information is your friend here because number one, you don't want to be sitting there mashing a bunch of random transactions. That's not going to help anybody. Let's just be straight up here, right? If you really want to farm this appropriately, you want to minimize how much you're spending, and you want to get as much coverage as possible. On top of that, and this is not just, by the way, this strategy can be applied for pretty much every airdrop you farm. Don't listen to those Don't listen to those rejects on Twitter, because let's just be honest here, they're not looking out for you, right? They're just engagement farming. So make a plan before you start doing anything. I don't want to see people starting their transactions and, just going, willy-nilly. I mean, you can. And if you do that, you'll end up spending a lot more than you should. And in that plan, you should be thinking about what you're doing short-term and long-term. In the short term, the things you can get up today, the things that will get you into the top 15% is to sort of go up on your source chains, go up on your destination chains, increase your number of your transactions, and the different contracts that you use. I'm going to go through each of those in a bit. And then finally, Long-term wise, you want to go through sort of up your number of days, weeks, and months. Obviously, you can't up your number of weeks and months overnight. That will take some time. However, we are like 17 days away from March. So technically, if you do it over the next 2 weeks and do nothing else, 2 months is not bad, right? Obviously, more the better. And at that point, once you're golden here, you just gotta do like one transaction a week max, maybe even one a month to keep on top of it. And finally, I wrote bridged amount. What I mean here is really transaction volume. It's bridged because it's LayerZero and we're talking about interoperability. So step one, find your starting point. So there are many tools out there. And let's just be honest here, when you use different tools, they don't calculate all the same things. They have different algorithms. A lot of them have some similarities. So like, for example, you're not going to go on this tool, NFT Copilot, put your wallet address in and find out your last place, but then find another tool that goes, oh, no, your first place. It just doesn't work that way. You're pretty much going to be in a very similar situation or around a very similar point. So don't worry about it. What you want to see is that you are trending in the right direction, right? So the first step, and I recommend NFT Copilot here versus anything else for this, just because I find it to sort of be a little more realistic, especially when I compare it to a lot of the Dune trackers, which I don't want to go into because there's a ton of them. I found this to be sort of the best barometer so far. There are some other apps out there, one's in creation with Earn3. When it's out, maybe we'll see if that's a better one. But till then, what I want you to do, the first step you need to do, go in and type your wallet address in. So before, like I'll be honest with you, I didn't take LayerZero very seriously. I maybe did one transaction every month or so. Following the strategy, I am now in the top 1%. If you looked at this maybe a month ago for me, I was like maybe 25th to 30th percentile. Now I'm top 1%, and still I can see here things where I can improve. This is why it's so important to have visibility. I know if I want to get even better than this, where can I beat? Well, the months, which is obvious because, it'll take some time. That's top 11%. Let's get that. Number of transactions, top 5%. That's my next opportunity. Then volume and contracts. I'm going to talk about how to sort of do all of these, but you see there, it's very easy to build a strategy. So here, for example, is what you would see, and some of our members saw and posted. I made everyone post about this in the private membership. So we saw a bunch of this, and that was good because it's humbling, right? Of course, you're going to start at day 0 at the bottom, your last place. But the thumbnail is indicative. That's one day you're able to sort of jump up such a large amount, and there's still such opportunity ahead. But once you know where you're starting, now the next step is to sort of go, okay, well, I need a map to keep track of everything for me. Now, yes, you will be maybe able to do this without getting access to the next tool, which is called Wenzer. I do apologize. In the last video, I posted about it. I didn't realize that without the premium membership that you couldn't see the source and destination chains. But I'll be honest here, like, it's not a bad deal to spend $4.58 to sort of get access to all of the intel behind all of these trackers for a lifetime. And not just that, they update it. So whenever there's an update to any of this, you'll get it. One thing I will say is if you do get this, you will likely see a sort of updating on the address that you select. And the reason for that is I think they have to sort of rejig everything. So it may take up to 12 hours. If it's too long, I think what you should do is join their Discord right here at the bottom and sort of ask them to prioritize for you if that's something you're concerned about. Okay, so that's number one. Now, yes, if you know you're starting at 0, well, you can watch this video and I'm going to show you some of the sort of outputs, and you can just go, okay, well, I know which ones I need to do. The challenge is you want to make sure that those things turn green after the fact. So sometimes, something you did where you might have thought would have triggered a LayerZero transaction, and if you go on LayerZero and check their Explorer, maybe it's not there, or maybe it's there, it doesn't count. Well, this sort of gives you a little more insight. But You can rough it if you'd like to. That's not a problem. But it just makes it harder for you. Honestly, $4, not a bad idea. I leave that to you. So when I load up my LayerZero, I see a ton of stuff, right? And by going down in each of these, I see where I fall under each category. If you're new, you're gonna find yourself sort of, zero, like not even here, not even here. Active days is 0, active months is 0, wallet age is 0, user contract 0, bridge 0, user transaction 0. All right, great. Where do we start now? That's the most important thing, right? Where do we start? So it's important before you do anything to understand now that you have access to the information. Number one, how do I plan this out? So going back to one of the initial things I showed, your short-term priority is number of source chains, number of destination chains, transactions, number of contracts, in that order. If you want to sort of switch the order, so be it. Number of source chains has the most weight out of anything else. So that's why if you can get all 10 source chains done, that's going to get you so much further than anything else you do, because everything else is bucketed into tiers. So like I believe for month, it's 2, 6, and 9, or 2, 5, and 9, for example. And if you look at Wenzer, you can see sort of how all of that stuff is bucketed. So what you want to do is when you go down here and you check source chains, I see all green now, right? But let's say they were all red. Then you need to do Ethereum. You've got to sort of have a transaction starting, right? So source means it's coming from one of these chains, the transaction. Destination means it's going there. So what you want to do is take a look at what your source and destination chains are that you haven't done. Write them down. Please don't do this in your head. Remember, before you even start, document this. So get an Excel out, make a list of the source, make a list of the destinations, okay? Before you even do your first transaction. Through this, I want you to do the following. I want you to identify the route. And by that, I mean, is there a way to keep your costs low? Because, for example, you go from Arbitrum to Optimism, from Optimism to Polygon, from Polygon to Celo or whatever, right? And that way you're hitting everything, but you're not doing, forward and backward, which are basically just a waste of money, right? How do you take the least amount of steps to complete before you start? Now, obviously, if you're just one of those people who has a ton of money to burn and you don't care, then great, do this. But at the end of the day, I'm here to sort of tell you how to optimize this. Also, one of the things that's very important is bridging. So when you're looking at bridges before you start the transaction, in an ideal sense, yes, it sounds great to sort of go from one chain to the other, but sometimes there is no bridge access from one chain to the other, or you'll need a specialized token. In that case, you'll have to be able to find a specific DEX on a certain chain to help swap. And once again, this is why the planning comes in handy. So you're not sitting here going, okay, well, I sent the money over here and now I don't know what to do because this bridge doesn't work. So that's another thing you need to look at. So as I was saying, the number of source chains is your top priority in the short term. And most people who've started this and most people who joined the private membership or who are in the private membership and wanted to do LayerZero, which is pretty much everyone, to be honest, they all start with Ethereum. And let me tell you something, you do not, if you can avoid it, especially now when the GWEI is so high because the market is pumping, right? Last I checked, Ethereum was doing really well. Well, when Ethereum does very well, the GWEI goes high because there's a lot of on-chain activity, and you don't want to sort of send your funds through LayerZero, which tends to be a more costly activity from Ethereum. What I would recommend that you do first is your opening move. And it's funny because I think of it like chess. You want to start with your opening move using something like Orbiter Finance. And with Orbiter Finance, going from Ethereum to either Optimism, which we have here, or Arbitrum. And by doing that, you keep your gas fees low, and that way your base of operations is either Arbitrum or Optimism. Remember, make your plan first before you decide which one you go to. One more thing I do want to mention is while we're on this topic is Orbiter. So I think I mentioned this on a previous video. You already know them as a bridge. they're also going to launch an L2. And as part of this, they are going to have a token generation event using what's called the O points. I have 531 right now. What is this? 15. Okay. 531 right now. And those are a result of a ton of transactions I've done, but they also have some quests. Some end February 23rd, some end on March 8th. You know, it's not bad, right? So if you're going to do the transactions anyways, take advantage of this. Also, I hold some Orbiter NFTs. Don't worry about this. You can buy them on the secondary market if you'd like to sort of get extra rewards for Orbiter. So once you do this, you sort of have, okay, here's my opening move, okay? Ethereum to Arbitrum or Ethereum to Optimism. So now that you've done that, you then want to use one of the 4 following bridges. My recommendation is, and by the way, I say bridges, anything that sort of has the interoperability of LayerZero will work. So Stargate Finance and Merkley are my 2 favorite. Angle has to be used on Gnosis and CeeLo because it's a pain otherwise. And when you start doing those 2 chains, which are like the 2 most challenging chains, you're like, okay, fine. So then basically Stargate is a very simple chain. But, you know, I sort of want to reemphasize this. When you're deciding where to bridge, just consider where your destination chain is and sort of make that path, as I said, right? And remember, some routes will require those specific tokens, so you'll really need to find out which dexes can support you on that chain to get that token. Within Stargate, what you can do is, let's say I have Ethereum and I want, you know, we're not going to go to Ethereum. Let's go pick Phantom first and have USDC, and let's go no, I can't. Yeah, I can pick Arbitrum. So if I want to swap Arbitrum USDT to Phantom USDC, most of you hopefully know that Phantom's native gas token is FTM. So this would get me an Arbitrum source and a Phantom destination. But I would not be able to use the money once it gets to Phantom unless I click this little button here. And you see, it says gas on destination. Make sure that you give yourself a couple Phantom, maybe 1, 2. I usually give myself 5 because Phantom's somewhat cheap. Once you close this, now part of the transaction will give me 5 Phantom token as well, which will be taken out of the USDT that I bridge. So if I bridge over 15, I will get 14.98 and it will charge me. So it doesn't come out of this token. It will charge me in ETH as well for the Phantom token, as well as the actual transaction, because we're going from Arbitrum. So this is something you really need to pay attention to. The gas on destination is a lifesaver, okay? Another tool you can use, which I think is really cool, is Merkley. So you have LayerZero. You can use it for Wormhole, Polyhedra, Hyperlane. But LayerZero and using the gas refuel option, once again, what's my source chain? I can pick it here. What is my destination chain? So you can do all of these and this ups your transaction count. Not just that, but let's say you find something cheap you want to do, you can sort of repeat it like 100 or 1,000 times, right? So let's just look at Polygon and CeeLo. Let's see if that works. All right. So I want to do this 6.2 CeeLo, and you see this is very expensive, so I won't do it. $54 in Matic will get me $4.55 on CeeLo. No thanks. So this is why it's so important to play around here and say, okay, what's sort of the best way to do this? What's the cheapest way? And when you're doing when you're increasing your number of transactions, you want to be doing this when the sort of gas is going to be the cheapest. I hope that makes sense, because you don't get credit for doing 1,000 CeeLo. All you need is 1 CeeLo sort of destination and 1 CeeLo source chain. I hope that makes sense. You also have Angle Money, which sort of lets you send funds from Optimism or other chains to Gnosis or to CeeLo. And you'll need to send like AGEUR for CeeLo. What do you have to send for Gnosis? I guess it's the same thing. I guess that makes sense because it's the AGEUR bridge. But basically, you can get the AGEUR on Sushi, I believe. I got to check my facts here because I think I tried this earlier. Yeah. So you can actually get AGEUR on Sushi. Remember, this is literally like a puzzle. Your goal here, once again, is, okay, how do I make all this stuff work? And it actually is a lot of fun, like sort of just checking off the boxes, because it was kind of enjoyable to sort of take things down one step at a time. It really is taking apart a puzzle. So you got to do all these things. I've left some really important links in the description below to really help you there. Other things you can do, remember, we're also looking for contracts. You can sort of do liquidity pools. You can farm, you can stake. Once you sort of stake, you can also go and vote on the Stargate DAO, which I've also put the link in the description. They rarely put out governance protocols, but still something else to do on top of everything else. Now, if you run out of that and you're still like, yeah, I need more contracts because I don't want to be in the top 5%. I want to be in the top 0.1%. Well, then I recommend you go to the LayerZero website and go to their ecosystem. Once again, the link is in the description. And I don't like the fact that it's so dark, but literally, like, they have all their dApps listed here. So you can just check some out, make sure, like, as long as you're connected and you do some transactions, or, doesn't matter what specifically it is, because remember, swaps will work, liquidity pools, as long as it's using LayerZero technology. And you can use the LayerZero sort of explorer to just vet that that's happening. So that's one of the things you can do. Now, keep in mind, literally, you could blaze right through this and you can get in the top 10, 15%. And then once it happens, you just have to do a transaction every week or every month to really score like the top spot, right? If you really want that top 1%, 2% to get a significant airdrop, that's what you got to do. My recommendation, though, is when you're first starting, don't just blast through. I know it might be like, hey, some people have gone from, I'm not touching LayerZero to, I want to finish this tomorrow. But what I want you to do is, at least for the first day or two, do a couple of transactions, then come back and check out NFT Copilot, go back there and say, okay, well, but this is also why screenshots are very important. Like, maybe you were here, maybe you refresh and it hasn't updated, because you see here, last updated 9 hours ago. So one of the things you sort of want to do is just, come back every so often, see how it's improved, and then go to Wenzer and see what that tells you, right? So on Wenzer, which chains updated? Like on my source chains, is it like 4 green now instead of 0 greens? This gives you an idea, and then you can sort of keep working through it. Now, the one thing I do want to say as well is, if you want to increase your volume, once again, find the cheapest route. I think it's Arbitrum and Optimism between the two of them. And just send a bolus of funds. So look, if you got one Ethereum or something, bridge one Ethereum over and back. The reason I recommend doing it all in one versus many transactions is because if you've already hit that number of transactions you want and you want volume, you're paying the same amount of gas regardless of how much you send. So you might as well send a bigger amount. But remember, it really depends on your situation. If you're trying to solve for more transactions versus more sort of volume, then sure, send piece by piece. Up to you. Remember, it really depends on what you need. This whole strategy is very adaptable. But really what I want to reemphasize with all of this is just keep it simple. This is not those Twitter, engagement people that, we got to have 30 complicated different tweets to talk about all these fancy maneuvers. The onus is on you. You've got to build a strategy that works best for you. I have laid out the playbook. You are literally looking at it. And if you're not sure, watch this video again before you start, and then make your plan before you do anything else. Once you've made that plan, that's when you get started. That's when you start making the transactions. And when you are crushing it, I want to know in the comments below. Come back in a few days if you start and go, here's where I started, here's my rank. And after 2 days, 3 days, whatever, here's the rank I am at. I want people to see that, because a lot of people, especially in our private group, were surprised at how easy it was. And by the way, it's not just this. And this is also why I say it's so important. Wenzer, things like Scroll, ZK Sync, Linea, Starknet, depending on, the snapshot and everything else. But these are all severely underfarmed because no one is doing it properly. And obviously, once the wormhole criteria comes out, we'll have a better idea of more things they're looking for. But until then, you know how to game the system and how to get to the top to put yourself in the best situation. So I do want to give you guys some time to ask some questions. I'll check the comments before I go to the gym. So let's see what's up. Got the Ocho in the house. Yeah, my man. He says, good afternoon. Smash the like button. Yes. Thank you all. Thank you all. That's great. Pinky Jams, let's go. One of the best content creators. I really appreciate that. Saroj said, how to check wormhole airdrop eligibility. So you can't really check that right now. Here's one thing I would recommend for your airdrop eligibility. Just go to the wormhole ecosystem, check their Explorer with your put your address in there, and it will show you how many sort of transactions you've had. The one thing that's complicated is I believe it only takes the EVM address. I don't think it takes your Solana. So I'm surprised because I use Solana and EVM to do a bunch of wormhole stuff, not intentionally, just happened, right? So we'll have to wait to see exactly what the wormhole criteria is. They may announce the snapshot and their tokenomics. As a Canadian, how do you do your crypto taxes for airdrop farming? It's complicated. I would treat this much the same way you treat poker. So this is a very nuanced subject because it's still very kind of new, but in poker, right? If you guys have watched Molly's game, which is crazy, it really sort of highlights how Uncle Sam wants people to if you have a winning session, you pay taxes on it. If you got a losing session, it's on you. But poker players win, the best poker players win on average 70% of their sessions. So you're better off just going, okay, what was my net value prior at the start of the year? What was my net value at the end of the year? And sort of if you've realized any sort of capital gains, whatever through that, that's what I would recommend. Everything else is just bullshit because how else can you sort of do this properly? Also, one more comment here. Honestly, if you've seen the way they've been wasting our tax dollars, I'm not really in a rush either to sort of get this sorted out for them, especially with what's going on in the media in the last couple of days with the arrive scam thing. How to check for Cybele. So there are some trackers, but I think it's hit or miss. So for Cybele, it's sort of multiple things you're looking at, right? So I got flagged by the Gitcoin passport, which actually revoked my one of my stamps, and I asked them why, because it basically said, hey, we thought some of the stuff you were doing was not appropriate, and I think it's because on ZK Sync I just did the same transaction 50 times back and forth, which obviously lesson learned for me. But I mean, that shouldn't be the biggest problem. That's probably something that their protocol says. As long as you're not having multiple wallets and, excessively abusing it. So I think they understand that you can have a couple wallets, but if all your wallets are literally out there sort of farming LayerZero, doing all the same stuff, then I think you'll get flagged that way, especially if your funds have commingled. Gotta run, we'll catch a replay. All right, see you, Ocho. Getting 10 source chains includes ETH, which is money. Yeah, so here's my thing. Do 9 first, leave ETH on the table, see what rank you are, and then decide, hey, do I want to go a little higher? And how much is that extra rank worth it to me? Also, in this case, you could also wait until the ETH chain cools off slightly. And by cooling off, I mean not being absurd with their GUI. There are times where swapping costs $85 on Uniswap, on Ethereum, and times when it costs $8. So it's also a time thing. That number 15 you have in Orbiter Finance is a number of card openings you have that gives you a random amount. Really? Interesting. Hold on, let me just try that here. I did not know that. Interesting. So I click on this. Oh, wow. You're right. I got 12 points. Jeez. How does that work? Do I do it again? Sweet. Genius. Wow. I was literally just going to let it stand there. Damn, I'm just crushing these points. Thank you so much for telling me that. Sorry if I get a little distracted. I just want to get this done. I'm too lazy. Let's zoom through this. All right, great. 672 points. I need more of these. I need to get more of that stuff. Cool. Thanks, Kildebeck. That's fantastic to know. Good alpha. I have 40 TF. Oh, of course. So away from LayerZero. I have 40 TS stake, and I have staked it all with Prism, and I'm active on their testnet, but their testnet is not smooth. Well, the testnet's not supposed to be smooth. It's called a testnet for a reason. It's hard to say if Prism's good. I think it's fine. So there's some drama going on in crypto Twitter, and people are getting upset with Prism the same way they did with Black Panther, right? They're like, when are we getting tokenomics? When are we getting some more visibility? And the reality is, if there is no other competing source for my validation, then I don't care as much. The reason I cared with Black Panther was like sort of almost like boasting about how great they were, didn't share anything. And then there were other protocols were also like, hey, redelegate to us and we'll give you this. So for me, I was like a very, there was an opportunity cost. There's zero opportunity cost to staking with Prism on some other chains, except for, I believe, Cosmos, where you have to pay an extra 2.5%, which comes out, I did the math for someone on Twitter, it comes out to an extra like 0.9 or 1% over the course of a year. And anything that's spent through that 1%, every dollar is converted into 10 Prism tokens. So, obviously there's some stuff there. And also one thing I want to mention is like they did have some, I don't want to say sketchiness, but there was some stuff that happened in their past that people are still holding on to. Honestly, I don't know one way or another, but the one thing I would say about Prism here is until there is another opportunity that we could redelegate somewhere else, I'm kind of like, whatever, take your time. They have provided some databases. There's a guy, Saleh, who created a dashboard. And at least for Cosmos, you can see what you've earned and sort of how that sort of translates into the weekly snapshots. Are the Galaxy or whatever task/quests a make or break requirement? For what? Like for LayerZero? I don't believe they are. Maybe there is one for LayerZero. I don't remember. But on traditionally, here's what you want to do. For the Galaxy quests, they can really provide you with some lucrative NFTs. In fact, hey, might as well show you this. So these Orbiter NFTs, I got the Trading Pilot, the Elite Pilot. These are bought off the secondary market. And let me just, while I talk about this, open something else up. One of the things that, you want to look at when you're doing Galaxy is, hey, are there things that I can earn that will be valuable? Now, obviously, like with Galaxy, there are thresholds. So what I'm about to show you is expensive. And this is the Ace Pilot NFT. This was only farmed through Galaxy. Granted, you had to do, I believe, either 500 or 1,000 bridge transactions. But the thing is worth over $1,000. So, they do provide value, and I believe these things tend to trend up, especially if you don't get them in time. So, I do Galaxy unless it's like one of those like joke things. So I try to do them for sure. I think on average, you're better off doing a Galaxy and an Interact. I find the Zeely quest to not be worthwhile, but like I've never gotten anything out of doing a Zeely quest, but I've gotten stuff out of Interact. Interact got me some Linea XP, which is sort of soul bound to your account. It was sent. That's going to be converted into part of the Linea token generation event airdrop. And that was for activities done in December. And there was a game Unfettered that will happen in January. But, besides that, Interact has also been like, Galaxy, however, NFT after NFT, OAT, rolls, all these other things that have opened up doors. So I prioritize Galaxy if possible. Are you farming any BRC20 airdrops? Not really. And here's the reason why. So Circus, not that I don't think they're not valuable. The problem is like I got a full-time job, I got a wife, I gotta go to the gym. In fact, guys, I go to Sweden literally this weekend. I'm gone for 2 weeks. I'm going to take my laptop though. I'm going to do some test streams on the new laptop just to make sure the quality is still good. Otherwise, I'll have to buy a mic or something before I go. I won't be able to make the videos as often because I'll be in a hotel room when I'm doing it late at night, plus 6 hour time zone difference or 7 if it's Sweden, whatever. But I'm gone for 2 weeks and I really have to focus on what I really need to stay on top of. right now, that's a lot of what the narrative is within Ethereum. So all the L2 stuff, Solana, the ecosystem. In my opinion, I think Solana is going to do fantastic in the next year. I think Solana is probably going to have the highest user adoption. It's probably the easiest for a new crypto user to use. And if all they care about is money, and that's likely what most people who get into crypto care about, truly, I can't see why you wouldn't pick Solana as the easiest onboarding experience. Phantom is super sleek. It's like a cent to trade. Like you can't beat it, right? So I want to focus on that. I want to focus on a bit of the sort of IBC stuff, and also all of these bigger airdrops we're working on, as well as sort of maintaining the channel and also supporting those in the Web3 Secret Society. For ZSync, I made 200 plus transaction, hold NFTs like ZK Sync Worker, Hustler King. Also, I hold Libertas. Wow, amazing. NFT Copilot, your rank is 1 million? Why? How? I just don't understand. Saroj, how is your rank 1 million on NFT Copilot for ZK Sync? Let me just see what my rank is, because oh god, I would just die if that was my rank. Hold on. We're just gonna load this up in the back, and I'm gonna bring it out. Sorry. Check this out. ZK Sync. Is 1 million that high? Yeah. So this is my ZK Sync. I'm top 1%. I'm not showing this to brag, but you see, I have an opportunity here with the 7 months, right? Top 27%. So I'm gonna get this up. I'm gonna get the volume up, bridge volume, transactions, and the points. This stuff, whatever. The contracts is nothing. But I would definitely sort of put a priority on getting this up. Follow the same strategy I just went over for LayerZero. Do the same approach for ZK Sync. In fact, Wenzer will show you which protocols you haven't interacted with and all of that. I think that way you can really grind hard. And I think having all these other things you have in combination will give you a significant ZK Sync airdrop. Okay? So Saroj, get to work. Blue Marvel, Prism is an old project from Luna days. They did the same staking program. Yeah. Oh, right. Because of what happened with Luna. And who was that guy? I forget his name. There was that guy who was so arrogant, who was the head of Luna, Terra Luna, right? And he's like, you can't beat us. And then they had this infinite death spiral. That's probably the only time I recommend shorting, and I'm so pissed I missed out on that. I wish I just jumped in with everybody else I knew doing it. But I was just like, nah, there's no way this is so good to be true. People printed off that. But yeah, that's probably why they have a bad perception. Space 5 says CRO. Oh, yeah. So, like I said, if there is some campaigns, it's not going to be a prerequisite. Galaxy is never make or break. It can only be a bonus, right? Because how can they know that you are going to know about Galaxy, right? The plan here is just, hey, we're not going to be able to figure this out. So if that's the case, if you're doing on-chain activity and you're supporting ZK Sync, they would never be like, well, they didn't open up Galaxy, so then we're not going to support or give anything. No. Galaxy will only just be a bonus criteria, and typically it'll be something you earned from the Galaxy. So, if it was an NFT, maybe it's like, oh, an extra 5% or something. You know what I mean? Those are the things. It's never a make or break. It's just 2 months. Okay, well, if that's the only criteria you have, I would suspect if you're in the million, because remember, there are 4,900,000 wallets. So there's no way it's just 2 months. It's also got to be number of contracts, transactions, volume. Go to NFT Copilot, look at where you are in each top what percentage, and get to work on the other ones that are not time bound. Pacer asks, got here late, still staking over 100 TIA with Stride and Milky Way. Cosmos stake with Stride and Stakecito. So, Pacer, are you staking? Well, Staker likes to ask the question multiple times. So, Staker, I just got to your question. Staker, are you staking with validators or just liquid staking? I want to be very clear on this, because it's also very important that you hit certain thresholds. Make sure if you've got 100 TIA By the way, just so you guys know, full transparency, I made a video. I am 100% out of Stride TIA as of 2 days ago or whenever I made that video. And, not a problem. But I would ensure, because we don't know, it has not been confirmed with 100% certainty that any future airdrops will look at liquid staking. We got lucky with AltLayer that it counted Milky Way. So because AltLayer had a threshold of 35 TIA, at a minimum, you should have 35 TIA stake with a validator. I have chosen to go down that route, and I have done it with Prism. In fact, let me just go through and show you exactly what I mean, and sort of the way I went around to do it. So this is Celestia, and you see here I have where is it? I have 78 TS staked with Prism, 21 with StakeZero, 16 with Nocturnal. And the reason I did it this way is I still, obviously if you have 35 only, just, stake 35.01 or something to be over 35. And, then it's fine. You can just put all of it in Prism. What I chose to do is, well, since I have more, I can split it up. So if something happens to Prism and they get disqualified, Nocturnal and StakeZero, I still have 37 here, and I'm good. That's sort of why I have my allocations a little more weird for those who are wondering. And basically, liquid with Milky Way, 50, Stride up 7. Yeah, so Pacer, I would, not financial advice, consider taking 35 out of the Stride or 35.01 out of the Stride, use Osmosis Zone or whatever. Get 35.01 staked with a validator in Celestia. Do that, as in my opinion, to ensure that you get whatever TIA airdrop comes next. The worst thing that could happen to you is for them to go, well, we launched, but we're not counting liquid staking. Because when you're sort of going through there, those protocols are making it, but unless they're sort of passing it over and giving you that benefit, which Milky Way has not said. What Milky Way said is, we made a deal with AltLayer. We don't know until Milky Way puts an announcement saying, anytime you stake with us, we will make sure you qualify for every single airdrop, all the things you've delegated to us, then you can keep a liquid stake. Until I see that, I would not do it. I would not do that, okay? So be very careful. Space 5, the same thing I said applies for ZK Sync. It applies for literally every protocol. The only times a Galaxy protocol would matter for something is if it was for like early users and they're using that as a gate. There's no way ZK Sync or LayerZero or any of the bigger protocols with a ton of funding, which has a huge community, is going to try to filter out by 1,000. Case in point I'll give you is the most recent airdrop I posted, Amber, which is on Nabla Finance. Only the first 1,000 people to sign up through Galaxy got the special exclusive 1K Nabla roll, and only those people got 250 Amber tokens each. Everybody else has got to sort of get in the scrum and see what happens in the testnet. So that does not happen on bigger protocols. This is a very small rinky-dink protocol, so it happened that way. It will not happen. You will not see these sort of restrictions happen for ZK Sync or LayerZero. They don't want to exclude somebody who might have not gone to Galaxy, but who would have been active on chain. That's just the way it is. And one last thing for Pacer, Adam 100 split with StakeZero and Stride. Okay, so that one, the 100 split, that's fine. StakeZero is a good guy. You may want to also consider potentially doing a redelegation to Prism. I don't get anything from them, but the reason I have it redelegated here, I got 100 Adam as well. I got StakeZero and Prism. Prism, 33 and 66. I tried to redelegate more, but it gave me an error because I did it recently. And once again, I just want to earn Prism token. Remember, it's all about opportunity cost. Mickey says, unrelated, but did anyone get a chance to vote on their DYM stake using MetaMask/EVM? Yeah, in fact, actually recently, I believe today, they announced that you can vote through the portal. So let me just bring this up sort of to clarify for those. So thank you for bringing it up. because this is something that, I was actually in their Discord last few days ago, sort of lambasting. I don't want to say lambasting, actually, just telling like the moderators and the development team that it was very irresponsible for them to not give the clarity to users that they needed to stake on Kepler or Leap to be able to vote on governance, especially if you think it's important. So if you haven't already, make sure you go to the official Dimension. Remember, so if you've been following the rules, you follow every protocol and you're in the Discord of every protocol you invest with. So for Dimension, go in there, go to the, and this is why I can click their link. And even still, if the link was sketchy, if they got hacked, it would tell me by wallet guard. So once you go here, I'm just going to sort of switch. I got to switch from Rabby wallet to MetaMask for this to load, hopefully. I've already voted on Kepler, but we'll see if this sort of loads for me here. But basically, you can go on chain and you're able to vote as of today. And remember, the vote ends tomorrow for their first proposal. Honestly, don't miss out on it because it's their first proposal, and sort of the way they're making noise about it, it sounds like there will be some sort of award for those who do it. What's going on here? Okay. Let's see. Why is it saying DOS attack on... Do you guys see this? I'm going to put this up here. DOS attack on portal RPC endpoints. Okay. So probably why it's lagging, but I'll leave it there for now. Maybe I'll show it to you on this one. I just got to sort of switch. Just give me 1 second. Go here, Dimension. So we got 280 Dimensions staked. You go to the governance. You'll be able to do this in the portal once that thing goes up, or once it not having issues on the website. You click on this and you vote. I voted yes. 99.89% of people voted yes. The vote ends tomorrow. So just keep in mind, if you haven't done it already, please do so. I've heard that bridging tokens from Crystal Vale to Serendale was a LayerZero transaction on so it's on DFK, right? Is this the case? So I thought so too. I've never gotten credit for it. Bolon mentioned this. Christian Peter mentioned this. LayerZero has never credited me for it. So it may be a LayerZero transaction. Can I please have it sort of go through? Maybe it went through. I didn't notice it, but I don't remember seeing it. And I've done a ton of bridging on that game. So we'll see. Space 5, thanks for clarifying. Yeah, not a problem. All right, well, looks like the comments are dried up. That means you guys got all the answers you need. You also know that means you know what to do. That means you need to go back there. And now that you know how to be an actual layer hero and not a LayerZero, go out there and make this happen for you. You still got a ton of time. It's not too late. Please, I get comments all the time saying, oh my God, it's too late. And I'm like, the first thing I know from that is you didn't watch the video. So get on this. Once you start doing this, start working on the others. I'm going to have similar videos on the other protocols, but literally I could just copy and paste and delete some of these things because most of the same stuff applies to the others. Remember, you need to find out where you are. The whole thing is this is a game. You got to view this as a game. What's your starting point? Use a tracker to know exactly what you got to do. So what's your map look like? Make a plan so you sort of don't sit there and run around in circles and wasting money. And then you just got to be consistent. In the short term, pump out a bunch, make sure that it's having the required effect by checking the tracker every so often. So do a couple transactions, make sure what you're doing is being reflected. Perfect. Now we can keep going. And then long-term wise, just maintain it on a weekly, monthly basis, one transaction. And that will bump up the rest of the things that you can't control for in the short term. But with all that being said, I want to thank you guys for watching. Hold on. We got one last thing here. Spencenator says, kind of weird, but Stargate hasn't been detecting my USDC or USDT. Really depends on which chain you're on. So Stargate is not a chain, right? So it depends on, are you on Ethereum? Are you on Arbitrum? Which chain are you on? Make sure you connect to the right one and you're selecting the right one, right? Sometimes if it's on the bottom, you will not be able to find it because that chain does not allow that bridge to happen. So if you're looking for USDC on your destination chain, it's not showing up because your main chain does not allow you to have that bridge connection. And that's the reason you can't do it. And once again, that's why you want the route. So one thing I will say here is make sure you take a look at that. Another reason why I like Wenzer is it also makes a recommendation on your source chains what link is best to use. So you see here, Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Merkley is nice because it fills in the gaps on a ton of stuff. It's cheap, it's very flexible, and you can do the same thing for your destination gate as well, right? Minter.Merkley for DF. So look, DFK's on here. Nice. You got that check mark on DFK. See, got that check mark. Maybe that was the bridging transaction. Anyways, see here, Spencer got checked in the top 60%. Perfect. Now let's get you the top 40, top 20, top 10. The higher you go, the more you'll get. Remember, aim minimum top 35 to 40%. That's usually the sort of cutoff spot for a lot of the airdrops. Once again, it depends on the criteria and the gates they use. But if you do all this stuff now, you got a ton of time and you can sort of really put yourself in a really good spot. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for watching the video. Make sure you like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the membership if you want to. But most importantly, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.